All right, we're going to take a look at finding inverse matrices. And so what we're going to do is look at how to find the inverse of a matrix by hand. And so here is our given matrix, and our goal is going to be to find the inverse of this particular matrix. So our game plan is going to be this. Here's our given matrix. The first thing we're going to do is augment the identity matrix on the right-hand side. And so what that means is we're just going to draw a little line. Sometimes people use a little dotted line. And then we're just going to put a 3x3 identity matrix on the right-hand side. And what we're going to do after that is just do a bunch of row operations until the identity matrix appears on the left. And as it turns out, the answer we're looking for, the inverse matrix, will be over here on the right. And we'll talk about why that works later on. So here we go. Here is our given matrix, and we've augmented the identity matrix on the right-hand side. And what we're going to do is a bunch of row operations to try to make the identity matrix appear on the left. And so what that means is we're going to have to clear these corner elements. We'll start in the bottom left corner here, and we'll try to turn this 3, 3, and 6 into zeros doing row operations. And so I'm going to fixate on this 3 right here. Well, to turn that into a 0, if I multiplied the top row by -3 and just added it to the middle row and put the answer in the middle row, I'd have a 0 there because -1 times 1 times -3 plus 3 would give me a 0. So I'm going to say -3 times row 1 plus row 2, and I'm going to put the answer in row 2. While I'm at it, I might as well clear this other 3 in almost the same way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take -3 times the first row and add that to the third row. So -3 times 1 would give me -3, and adding it to 3 would give me a 0. So I'm going to do almost the same thing to the bottom row. So we'll just kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Top row is unchanged. Middle row, I do get that 0 when I do this. And let's spot check like just one other place. So say this element here, this 5 that became a 2, if I do -3 times 1, that gives me -3, and if I add it to 5, -3 plus 5 is 2, so that worked. And if I now look at the bottom row, same thing, I get those zeros that I was looking for. So my next move is going to be to fixate on this 3 right here. I want to turn that into a 0. And one way to do that is to multiply the middle row by -3 halves, and the reason I would do that is it would promote this 2, it would become a -3 because 2 times -3 halves is -3. And if I add that to 3, I'll get 0. So again, what I'm going to do to get rid of that 3 is I'm going to multiply row 2 by -3 halves and add it to row 3 and put the result in row 3. And so there's my first 2 unchanged rows. In my third row, I do get that 0 by making that little move. And so the next thing that we want to pick on, well, a couple things, but this 1 right here, I would like to change that into a 0. Well, one easy way to do that is if I multiply the bottom row by -2, because then that would promote this 1/2 to a -1, and I add it to the 1, then that will cancel that element. So I'm going to say -2 times row 3 and add it to row 2, and that'll help me get rid of that 1. The other thing I'm going to do while I'm at it is I'm not really digging these fractions down here, and so I'm going to multiply that bottom row by 2 just to get rid of the fractions. So 2 times row 3, and then I'm going to put that in row 3. So let's do those things. Top row is unchanged. I didn't mess with it. If I do -2 times row 3 plus row 2 and put the answer in row 2, that will give me that 0 that I was trying to create. And then if I just simply double the elements in row 3, then I've gotten rid of the fractions that were written there. So we're making progress. We just got a couple of 1s in the top to clear. So I'm going to fixate on that corner one. That's easy to get rid of. If I just do negative of the third row and add it to the first row, that'll clear that 1. So I'm going to do negative row 3 plus row 1 and put the answer in row 1. So bottom 2 rows are unchanged. And if I do this operation, I will clear that 1, turn it into a 0. And again, I guess just to spot check, we had for instance, if I pick on this element, we have a 3 down here. If I take the negative of that, that would be, take the negative of this 3, that would be -3. And then if I add that to 1, or add 1 to that, it will give me -2, and that's why I end up with a -2 here. So just spot checking that one. We just have one more 1 to clear. It's this one. One easy way to do that is if I multiply the top row by -2, which would turn this number into a -2, and then just add it to the middle, but then put the result in the top row. So in other words, I'm going to say -2 times row 1, add it to row 2, but then put the result in row 1. And that will indeed clear that central element and turn the 1 into a 0. And so finally we've done it. We've cleared all the elements. We just have to change this matrix on the left into the identity matrix by just playing around with the rows here to change this -2 and 2 into 1. So we're really almost there. So if we just continue, here's where we are so far. And what I need to do to the top row is if I just divide everything by -2, that will turn that first element into a 1. So we'll divide the top row by -2. And we'll do a similar thing to the middle row. We'll just turn the middle row, we'll just divide the middle row by 2, and that'll change that 2 into a 1. So when we do those two things, we do get the identity matrix on the left-hand side. And then this right-hand side should be our answer. It should be the inverse of our original matrix. So this guy right there should be the answer. Well, so just to check, I pulled up a little matrix calculator. I typed in our original matrix here on the left, and put our new matrix that we just found here on the right. And it turns out when you multiply our original one times this new matrix, you do get the identity matrix. So this is the inverse of the matrix that we started with. So let's take a quick look at why that worked after we celebrate a little bit. Why did this work? So the way our problem was written, we were given a matrix. We were supposed to find some mystery matrix X that is the inverse. And so in other words, given the matrix M, if we multiplied it by this mystery matrix X, we should get the identity matrix. That's what it means to find the inverse matrix. And so what we did was we augmented the identity matrix on the right-hand side of our unknown, or of our given matrix. And so the reason that kind of worked is this unknown, the unknown matrix, was kind of represented by the blue line on our augmented matrix. We put the given thing on the left, and we put the identity matrix on the right. Well, then we just did a bunch of row operations. And by the time we finished with the row operations, we had the identity matrix on the left-hand side. So we did a bunch of row operations until that thing popped up over there on the left-hand side of our augmented matrix. Well, if you remember, kind of the line in our augmented matrix represents the sort of the unknowns. So what we have is the identity matrix on the left, and then this new matrix on the right, which is our inverse matrix. So that's why this method worked. So if you're trying to find an inverse matrix by hand, you can augment the identity matrix on the right and then just do a bunch of row operations until that identity matrix flops over to the other side.